Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In this video, I will show you how to create a control center widget for iOS in Godot game engine. So let's get started. So firstly, like we will be doing two things. We will be creating an iOS plugin as well as a control center widget. So the use case for this, suppose I want to track how much coffee I take during the day. Uh, so for that, we will have a button inside our application. Uh, a Godot game engine button. Then on click of that button, we will be calling our iOS plugin to update the intake, and to store the intake we will be using user defaults. And user defaults is basically used to store key value data pair. Now you might be wondering why to use user defaults, use something which is directly available in GDScript or Godot game engine. Now the problem is we can't really do that because we want because we want that thing to be accessible from control center widget as well. And the best bet is to use a native iOS API. You don't have to use user defaults, maybe you can use core data, SwiftGodot or something else, but it has to be accessible from native iOS side as well. So that's why I have used this particular approach. So yeah, and we can update that coffee intake or tea intake, whatever you want to call it, from our control center widget as well. We don't have to every time open the app. So this use case you can modify it according to your application as well. This doesn't have to be with coffee intake or tea intake as well. It can be some coins in your game or whatever it can be, whatever you can think of. So let's get started. As usual, you would require macOS and Xcode installed, and I have created an empty folder called Godot. You can name it whatever name you want to, because this empty folder I have created because there will be 3 different projects which we have to create. That's why. So yeah, let's get started. So firstly, I have my Xcode open. Just click on File at the top, New, File, New, Package. Then go select multi-platform, select library, click next again, and here just go to your Godot folder, and here I have named my library as my library. You can name it whatever you feel like, but do remember this name because we will be using this name in lot other places as well. Just click on create. It will create our library. Then I have just created this cheat sheet which helps me to easily integrate SwiftGodot. So we will be using Swift to create our iOS plugin, and we will be using the SwiftGodot dependency for this. So just go to this particular URL and it guides us how to integrate inside our application. So if I just scroll down over here, we have already done this step. So we have to copy this dependency section next. So I already have it. If you want, you can copy it from the documentation as well, no big deal. Then just go to your package.swift file and paste it over here. Then just do Command S. It will automatically download this dependency using Swift Package Manager inside our application. So just concentrate on the left hand side. Here you can see it has downloaded all of it. Once that is done, we just have to add a platform iOS. So if you just scroll down over here, here you can see platform. They have added macOS, but we want iOS. So just add something like this. I have kept the minimum version as 17. I was facing a lot of issues while compiling for version 15. That's why. And I think this control center thing is only available from version 18 because it was just introduced in WWDC 24. I'm not really sure. So if you want to change it to version 18, that's fine as well. Okay. Then we have to add this type dynamic as well. So if you see the documentation over here inside the library name, we have to add this type dynamic over here as well. Then here we again have to copy this dependency section. So if you scroll to the documentation, here you can see they have given this dependency section. So you just copy that and paste it over here. Okay, I'll just improve the indentation a little bit. Again, just do Command S just to be on safe side. Once that is done, now at the time of me recording this video, SwiftGodot does not support Swift version 6. That's why I have to downgrade this to 5.10. Now if you are watching this in the future, maybe you can check the SwiftGodot version if it supports Swift version 6 or not. If yes, then you don't have to do this change. Then we have to go to this my library file. Now I will cheat a little bit. I have already created one sample project. From that I will just copy the code, but I'll explain it to you. So I will have to go to my library.swift. Okay, I'll just copy everything and I'll paste it over here. Okay, so firstly I'll remove this. We require UI kit as well as SwiftGodot. This is the boilerplate code which we have to write. This is in the SwiftGodot documentation, but this should be your library name. Then here I have created a class called my library, annotated with @Godot, because this we need to call it from GD script side. And here I have just created one signal. I'm not really using this signal because saving and getting data from user defaults is a synchronous operation, so I don't need this. So if I want, I can comment it. If you are doing something else apart from user defaults, you can use this signal to send the data back to iOS side. Then here I have defined one key, because user defaults takes key value data, right? So this key can be anything: coffee intake, tea intake, whatever you want to name it. But do remember this name, because we will be using this name in the control center widget as well. So here you can see I have just created one method called update value. Now if you have a little bit knowledge of native iOS and user defaults, you might be wondering why I'm not using user defaults dot standard over here. We can't really do that. The reason being, we need to use this user defaults from control center widget as well. That's why we have to use this particular variant of user defaults called suit name. Okay, now what should be the suit name? It is typically group dot whatever is your bundle identifier. So this is not my bundle identifier. I'll remove this. I'll remove this as well. I'll come back to the bundle identifier in a bit. Okay, but here we are just getting hold of our user defaults. We are getting looking for this particular stored number key inside user defaults. If it is present, then we will get the value. If there is no value, we get 0. Then we just update the value by 1 and again save it back to user defaults and return the value back to Godot side. Otherwise we return 0 in case of any error. Similarly for get value as well, we get hold of our user defaults, we get the value which is present inside this particular key of stored number, return the value back. Now how to generate this bundle identifier? So for that you will have to go to Godot game engine. At the time of recording this video, I'm using Godot 4.3.0, but I don't think there will be any major breaking changes as such. Okay, I'll just remove this missing one. Okay, I'll just click on create, browse. So I will go to the empty Godot folder which I have created, and here I will just name it as my Godot project. Name it whatever you feel like. Okay, and I'll just click on create and edit. Now let's just wait. Okay, so this is done. Now here you will have to go to project, export, add, iOS, click on fix import. You will have to enter your app store team ID. I will enter mine later on, but make sure you enter it now only, otherwise you won't be able to export your project later on. To get your app store team ID, you can just go to this particular URL over here. So this will guide you how to get your app store team ID. I'm not going into that. Next here scroll down. Here you will have to set your bundle identifier. Typically it is com dot your company name dot your app name. Now this is just a practice project. I will name it whatever I feel like, com dot nobody dot my app. Okay, so something like this, and I'll just click on enter. I'll close this. Now same bundle identifier I'll use it over here. Typically I want what I do is I start the suit name with group dot, because we need to add app group later on as well, which I will tell you more about later on. But now here I will just paste our bundle identifier. Okay, so this is done. Now we need to add a shell file to this particular library, iOS library project. Now I don't like, I'm not going to add that shell file from Xcode, because I always mess it up. I will add it via VS Code because that's the easiest way according to me. So what I'll do is I will just open the entire Godot folder which I have over here inside VS Code. If you are comfortable adding it from Xcode, go ahead. Now here inside our my library, I just have to create a file called build.sh. So I will just create that particular file. Next, to get that particular file's code, you have to go to this particular URL. So I will just open this URL. Now again, shout out to this guy, because this guy has helped me a lot while figuring out how to use Swift with Godot. So I will just copy all the code in this particular file, and I'll just paste it inside my build.sh. Once that is done, we have to make two changes. Scroll up, and here firstly you will have to write your own iOS library name. So mine is just my library. Okay, and we also need to add this dash keep macro validation. I'm not sure if this is necessary or not, because when I was trying to compile it, I got error, and then that guy Stefan told me to add this. That's why I'm adding this. So that's the only two changes. This should be your library name, and I have added this as well. Now once that is done, we are done from the iOS library part. So what we can do is we can just open our terminal. and we can just cd to our my library which we have created. So I will just cd it inside terminal. I'll clear everything out. Once we are over here, again I'll just close this. We have to run firstly this particular command chmod plus x build.sh. uh, then we have to run this command dot build dot sh iOS debug. Now again, like I told you, I am not deploying it to Apple App Store, so I'm okay with the debug framework. But if you are planning it to deploy it to iOS App Store or Apple App Store, you, instead of debug, you will have to write release, so that it generate the release framework as well. So I'll just copy this command and I'll paste it over here. Now this will take little bit of time to run, so let it do its thing. In the meantime, we'll come back to our Godot game engine. I will create a 2D scene. I will quickly save it as well, and I will run it as well, so that my current scene is selected. Otherwise I will face issue. Okay, so this is done. I'll close this. Then I will just create one button, and I will just expand the button a little bit. So this will basically increment the counter, and here is one label as well which I will create. So here is our label. I'll increase the font size for both of them. So go to theme override, font size, I don't know, 40 I guess. Then I'll go to our button again, and here I will just say update or whatever you feel like is correct for you. I'll just save it. I will attach one script. Okay, then I'll go back to our button. I'll go to node. I will attach the press signal as well. Okay, now again I'll just cheat a little bit. I will go back to my old practice project to copy some code. I'll explain it to you. Go back to my Godot project. Node underscore. Okay, so firstly I'll have to copy this particular thing. So firstly, this is a variable which will hold our library reference. I will also drag and drop our library label reference as well, so something like this. Then we need to instantiate this library inside onReady. So that's what we will do over here. So I'll just copy this and I'll paste it over here. Okay, so this is our library name. So here you can see that whatever is your library name, you will have to change it over here as well as over here. Now this is not the so I don't require any signal, so I'll just remove this. And this is not I will just remove this because this is there is no such method like that. Sorry, I'll just move it back. Instead I will method, what is our method name? Get value. So I will call the get value inside onReady, so that in case if the user is opening our app for the second third time, our label automatically shows that value. Okay, and here I will just do label dot text equal to str. I will just typecast it to str and display that value. So yeah, okay, now on button press, I will just copy some code and I'll paste it over here. Now again now on button press I'll call the update value method, and again I'll just change this to label.text str, and I'll do it like this. Okay, now again I'll just go back to VS Code. I'll open our Godot project, and here firstly we'll have to create a folder called bin. If you want, you can do it from Godot game engine as well. I'll close this, and next, once you create the bin folder, we have to create a file called whatever is your library name .gd extension. So I'll just create that file. Now if you see it from the Godot game engine, I'm not able to open this file over here. That's why I have not created it from Godot. Maybe there is some workaround which I don't know, but yeah, that's why I'm using VS Code. Next, we just have to copy this part of code. So I'll just copy this and paste it over here. Now again, like I mentioned, if you are generating release, you will have to replace debug with release on both of these places. If I go back to my terminal, my library is ready as well. So I will just go to our Godot game engine, Godot folder, sorry, go to library, go to bin, go to iOS, copy these two files, folder, sorry, then go back to our Godot game engine, Godot game project, go to bin and paste it over here. Next we need to export our project. Okay, so the next thing which we have to do is, before exporting, I'll just create one folder called iOS. You can name it whatever name you feel like, because once we export our iOS folder from Godot game engine, there will be lot of files. That why I have created a separate folder for this. Again, so just go back to Godot game engine. Make sure you click on Command S to save everything. Just click on project, export, click on export project, go to the iOS folder and just click on save. Now this will take little bit of time to run, so just be patient. In the meantime, I will just remove this. Okay, now once our project is finished exporting, what we will have to do is, we'll have to open it inside Xcode and create a control center widget. Now the control center widget can only be created from Xcode side. You can't really create it from your libraries, like from your library code which we have written inside Xcode. We can't really do that, and neither we can do it from Godot game engine. So that's the problem of it. So we'll just have to wait for this project to get exported, and once it is exported, we'll open it in Xcode and I'll show you the rest of the steps. In the meantime, again I'll cheat a little bit. So I have already implemented this functionality for native iOS. So I'll just open some files. You don't have to worry about this. I'll explain it to you later, but let's just wait for this export to be done and then I'll explain it to you. Alright, so the project has been exported. I will just go to our iOS folder. I will double click on this .xcode proj file and it will automatically open it for me in Xcode. Now if you remember, I was talking about adding app groups. So firstly you'll have to go to your Godot project, go to sign in and capabilities. Here click on this plus capability button and select app groups, and here inside app group, let's just wait for this to finish. So just scroll down and here you can see we'll have to click on this plus button, and whatever we have added inside our this particular thing, right, group.com my nobody.my app, right? So same thing, I'll add it over here as well. So I'll just do something like this and I'll click on OK. Now if you're like me getting this error, just unclick, check this and check this again. It will automatically resolve it for you. Also one more thing, like I mentioned it to you, I think this control center widget is only available from iOS 18. So, and also we will have to run this on a real device. We can't run it on a simulator because of this Vulkan stuff and all that, which I don't really understand. So I'll just update the minimum deployment to iOS 18. Do let me know if control center works for you below iOS 18 as well. It might, I'm not really sure. Okay, so this is done. Once that is done, again we'll have to come to Xcode, click on file, new, target, and here inside filter we just have to search for widget. Okay, and here is our widget extension. Click on it, click next, name it whatever you feel like. I'll just name it as my Godot widget. You can give it some proper name, and here you will have to select this include control. This is very important, as well as include configuration app intent. You can uncheck this include live activity. We are not really doing that. Then just click on finish. Let's just wait, click on activate as well. Now one more thing which I want to tell you guys is, this control center which we have created from Xcode, every time you export it any project from Godot game engine, this control center thing will get lost completely, as well as the app group which we have added. So make sure you make use of Git, or if there is any other better way, I'll leave that up to you. I'm not going into that. Okay, so once control center widget is created, again you will have to click on project. Make sure you select this widget extension. Again go to sign in and capabilities, click on plus capabilities, select app groups, and here also we'll have to click on this plus button and write the same thing, group.com.mynobody.my app. Click on OK. Once that is done, just open your control center, your widget. Open this my Godot widget control. Now here we'll have to make use of SwiftUI. Currently at the time of me recording this video, you can't use any SwiftUI widgets inside control center. You can only use two things, control widget toggle as well as control widget button. So we will be making use of control widget button, because on click of our control center we want to update the counter inside our user defaults, right? So I'll just comment this out. Also inside control widget toggle you can only use label, text or image. You can't use any other SwiftUI views, at least at the time of me recording. Maybe Apple later down the line might have introduce some more SwiftUI widgets for control center as well. Like I told you, I will just copy some code. So this is the control widget button. uh, so here I'll just paste it. So here is our control widget button, and on click of it we are calling a file, calling a file called increment intent, which I will show you later on. But here I'm getting hold of our user defaults. Now again I'll just use the same thing. I'll just copy this and I'll paste it over here. So it is the same thing exactly. We just have to change this with our own bundle identifier. So I'll just remove this. Again I'll just go to my library code and I'll just copy this. So this is my bundle identifier and I'll paste it over here. Okay, so that is important, and the key is the same. Stored number key is the same what you are seeing it over here. So that is also very important. Again I'll just go back to our main project. I'll change this to the main project because for running I want to run the entire project. So here you can see here is our control widget button, which will have a text. You can change this to whatever you feel like and change the image to whatever you feel like. And here I'm inside of our text, we are just defining the value which is present inside user defaults. So that's what we are doing over here. So I'm getting the value from user defaults and displaying it over inside our text element. Now I'll just improve the indentation a little bit. Now you don't have to worry about the rest of these things. We even don't need this. So if you want, you can just you can comment this code out. This is only for that control widget toggle. Change this to maybe, I don't know, tea intake or coffee intake, and here you can change it to app tracking tea intake. Yeah, change whatever you feel like. Okay, now we'll have to create this increment intent file. So again, create this file only from Xcode. Don't create it from VS Code or do like that, because we have to set target membership, which is automatically handled by Xcode. VS Code does not handle it for us. So I'll just go back to our Godot widget, right click on it, new empty file, and I'll just name it as increment intent. Now again I'll just go back, copy some code and come back to you. Just copy this code over here. So here you can see we are importing app intents. So this is how a click listener of a button in a control center works. So here we have to extend from app intent. Again, change this to whatever you feel like. The user defaults key should be the same what we have used previously. And again, here this particular method gets called automatically whenever a button is clicked, because this particular method is overridden from app intent. Now again we'll have to change this bundle identifier. I'll just copy this bundle identifier and I'll just change it over here. See, we are doing the same thing. We are getting hold of our user defaults, getting the current value present inside it, updating it by 1 and setting it inside user default. And this is present by default, which we have to do again boilerplate code. We don't have to worry about it. Now what I'll do, I'll just run my application. Hopefully I have not forgot anything. Let's see if it works or not. Hopefully it should work, but even I have not tested it previously. So yeah, let's see. In the meantime, I'll just mirror my device. Okay, so here is my device. For the very first time it does take a little bit of time to run, and Xcode also throws some couple of errors, so let's just wait for that. So here, as you can see, this is the first error. So I'll just click on continue and I'll click on OK. Again I'll try to rerun my application. This happens with me every single time. I don't know what this is, but yeah, this only happens to me for Godot game engine projects. So I'll just wait for this to finish. Okay, so here is our button. The count is 0 at the very start. I'll click on this update button. Okay, so our count is definitely incrementing. Update, click on it few more times. So the count is now 5. Okay, I will just dismiss our app. It is still in the background. Do notice that. I'll click on this control center thing. Sorry, this control center thing. Okay, I'll click on the plus button which you see at the top, and here you can see it is at the bottom. It is saying add a control. I'll click on add a control. I'll just scroll down, search for your app, or you can just search it inside your controls as well. I hope my app is visible. Okay, let me just type my okay, this is screen recording, add a control. Okay, so here is my app. I don't know why it was not searching it from controls. So my app name is just my Godot project. I'll click on this T intake option which is there, and here you can see it is showing the last. Now I can pull it to display the number of T as well. So here you can see it is automatically displaying number of T5. Now I will click it somewhere else, and now it is inside the unediting mode. Now suppose if I click on this, here you can see the count has changed to 6. If I click on it again, the count has changed to 7. I'll click on it again, the count has changed to 8. Now if you remember, our app is still in background, and if I go over here, it is still showing 5. This is fine because I'm not I'm only updating the label when our button is click or inside on ready. Now on ready is not called if your app is pulled from background, but if I click on the update button now, it will directly jump to 9. Here you can see, or if you want, you can just close the app completely, go to your, now our widget is not updated, this is fine, but like even I am looking for how to update our widget. I will definitely make some video in the future about this. But if I click on our widget, now the count will jump to 10. Here you can see the count is jumped to 10. I'll just click it on a few more times. Okay, the count is 12. Now if I open my app from the very start, hopefully it should show the right value. Okay, I think this is taking, yeah, okay, so here you can see value is 12. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.